Welcome to Versereviews. Part 2. The Battle Over the Bomb. And the Oppenheimer security hearing. If you haven't watched Part 1, then watch that part to be able to understand upcoming parts. Let's get started. The Battle Over the Bomb. In the years on the Battle Over the Bomb and the Oppenheimer security hearing. Immediately following the war, public opinion about the use of the atomic bomb hadn't yet solidified. The first time Oppenheimer appeared on the big screen was in August 1946, when he starred in the 18-minute documentary, Atomic Power, which was part of Time's The March of Time series. On-screen, Oppenheimer, one of several figures who participated in the film, including Einstein, Groves and Robbie, reenacts waiting anxiously for the detonation at Trinity with Robbie, who gives a stilted performance as he reassures his boss, "It's going to work all right, Robert. And I'm sure we'll never be sorry for it." In fact, Oppenheimer was already sorry. In October 1945, he told President Harry S. Truman, played by Gary Oldman in Nolan's film, "Mr. President, I feel I have blood on my hands." The tide of public opinion was also beginning to turn. 3 weeks after Atomic Power was released, John Hers's searing, book-length article, Hiroshima, appeared in The New Yorker, awakening many Americans for the first time to the horrors of the bomb. Fearing they were losing the battle for the history books, Truman and other officials sprang into action, compelling former Secretary of War Henry Stimson to defend the use of the bomb in a Harper's Magazine article published in February 1947. The story, which reads as a simple recitation of the facts, portrays the decision to use the bomb as one made with sagacious care. It introduced the argument, repeated often since, that the bomb prevented an Allied land invasion of Japan that would have cost over 1 million casualties to American forces alone. That article really set the history for most Americans for the next generation, Bird says. And the narrative was, oh, it was a difficult decision. It was terrible. But it was necessary, and it saved perhaps 1 million American lives. The Oppenheimer security hearing. Almost immediately, Oppenheimer began speaking out publicly about the dangers of atomic warfare, even as he continued to act as a nuclear weapons consultant for the U.S. government. In November 1945, he told an audience in Philadelphia that the bomb was, by all the standards of the world we grew up in, an evil thing. He gave television interviews starkly elucidating the risk of nuclear war. In 1949, as the head of an advisory committee for the newly formed Atomic Energy Commission, AEC, he delivered a report warning against developing a hydrogen bomb, a fusion weapon more powerful than the Trinity, Hiroshima or Nagasaki bombs, that had been conceived by fellow Manhattan Project scientist Teller. A super bomb might become a weapon of genocide, Oppenheimer wrote. A super bomb should never be produced. In 1953, he gave a speech likening the nuclear-capable United States and Soviet Union to two scorpions in a bottle, each capable of killing the other, but only at the risk of his own life. Oppenheimer's outspoken warnings made him a target, and in December 1953, amid McCarthy-era paranoia about Soviet spies in the highest levels of government, AEC chairman Lewis Strauss, played by Robert Downey Jr. in Nolan's film, who harbored a dislike for Oppenheimer, called the scientist into his office and told him his top-secret security clearance had been revoked. Oppenheimer insisted on defending himself, leading the AEC to call what became a highly publicized security hearing to resolve the matter. The month-long hearing, which began on April 12, 1954, amounted to an X-ray of Oppenheimer's adult life. Transgressions large and small were dragged into the open and held up to exacting scrutiny. Key pieces of the case against Oppenheimer included his close friendship with Chevalier, a scholar of French literature at Berkeley and a card-carrying communist whom the physicist had once protected from incrimination, as well as Oppenheimer's opposition to Teller's hydrogen bomb. The usually persuasive scientist panicked under questioning by AEC lawyer Roger Robb. At one point, caught in a contradiction, Oppenheimer accounted for his defense of Chevalier by admitting bluntly, "I was an idiot." But he also had to defend personal matters, such as his decision to spend a night with his communist ex-fiancée, Tatlock, in the summer of 1943, while he was working at Los Alamos, 6 months before she died by suicide in 1944. Why did he have to see her? The committee asked. Because she was still in love with me, Oppenheimer responded. On May 27, the board overseeing the hearings voted 2-1 not to reinstate Oppenheimer's security clearance. I personally think that our failure to clear Dr. Oppenheimer will be a black mark on the escutcheon of our country, wrote lone dissenter Ward V. Evans. Either way, Oppenheimer's relationship with the U.S. government was now officially over. He returned to Princeton, New Jersey, where he'd been the director of the Institute for Advanced Study since 1947. The hearings destroyed him, Robbie later said. Another friend, diplomat George Kennan, remembered trying to comfort Oppenheimer by telling him he'd surely be welcome abroad. His answer, given to me with tears in his eyes: "Damn it, I happen to love this country." Oppenheimer tried to minimize the importance of the hearings. "I think of this as a major accident, much like a train wreck or the collapse of a building," he told a reporter. "It has no relation or connection to my life. I just happened to be there." As much as he might have wished that to be true, Oppenheimer's downfall during the hearings came to define him in the public eye. In 1964, the German playwright Einar Kipphardt drew directly on the published transcripts of the security hearings for his In the Matter of J. Robert Oppenheimer. Discussing the play with the Washington Post, perhaps still trying to prevent his downfall from defining him, Oppenheimer said, "The whole damn thing was a farce, and these people are trying to make a tragedy out of it." In an attempt at public rehabilitation, President Lyndon B. Johnson presented Oppenheimer with the Enrico Fermi Award, the AEC's highest honor, in 1963. Nonetheless, the physicist never fully recovered from the blow to his reputation. He lived out the rest of his days in Princeton, where he kept his job at the Institute for Advanced Study until 1966, and died of cancer there in February 1967. As the New York Times wrote in his obituary, this bafflingly complex man nonetheless never fully succeeded in dispelling doubts about his conduct.